OMG, spreaders. It's been months. I know, it's been months. I've been so busy. Everybody wants video. The reason I got into video from audio 10 years ago was that I figured in the future everyone's going to want video, and I was right, and it hurts. So I've been gone for a good couple months, working on videos, and thank you guys for being patient with me while I work on all these videos. But we're coming up now on crucial times, election times, so we're reactivating Super Spreaders live streams, and I am working now on a massive video hit piece on Mark Carney. So we can get out in front of this asshole and look at where he comes from, how they bring up children from young ages to become leaders of entire nations. We all know it's just way too suspicious. How can you be just appointed the leader of an entire nation and you haven't even lived there in what, 15 years? Mark Carney's more British, he's more French than he is Canadian, and he's our prime minister now. So I've got an entire bookmarks folder on Mark's carnage. And I'm trying to make a video here, people. I'm trying to make a video. I decided a few days ago that I wanted to make a really quick assassination video on Mark Carney. When I say assassination, I mean character assassination, not literal. YouTube. Thank you. So let me transition over to the film. And those of you joining us will be amongst the first to ever see this footage. And I want to know what you think, and I want to know what you'd like to add. So here's part one.
Now that Carney has been officially installed as the interim Prime Minister of Canada, the decision to replace Justin Trudeau with the much more vicious technocrat can only be understood by the historic role of the British Empire in using Canada as a weapon against Canadians, and especially Americans, going back for over 2 centuries. In the 19th century, Canada was recognized as a principal enemy of the USA. Confederate intelligence had enjoyed.
So that guy, those are pictures of one of the fellow conspirators in the assassination of Lincoln, all run out of Montreal. And people don't know this. They don't know who this guy is. They don't know any of this stuff. Canada has been a money laundering and assassination center for the British Empire for almost 200 years, and none of us knows anything about it.
Vast patronage and support by the British Empire through its web of intelligence bases in Montreal and Toronto. These Confederate intelligence networks not only coordinated terrorist operations against the Union from the north, but additionally paid and directed John Wilkes Booth to murder Lincoln after the war's end. These facts were outlined in detail in Barry Sheehy's brilliant 2017 book, Montreal, City of Secrets. When Cecil Rhodes' strategy in order to recapture the lost colonies of the Americas and establish a world federation under the City of London, it was Canada that incubated hundreds of Rhodes Scholars between 1907 through 1952, which then infiltrated the USA. This fact was exposed by American journalist Eugene Griffin in the 1951 Chicago Tribune article titled, "Canada Offers Fine Field to Rhodes Wards."
British-educated Canadians are in a unique position to serve Britain through Canada's influence on Washington as a next-door neighbor of the United States. Canada acts as a connecting link between England and the United States, helping to hold the neighboring republic in line with the Dominion's mother country. When General MacArthur displeased Britain and Canada by his efforts to win the Korean War, Canada's Oxford-educated Minister for External Affairs, Lester B. Pearson, complained that American-Canadian relations had become difficult and delicate. MacArthur was fired the next day. Pearson's Foreign Office staff was packed with Rhodes Scholars. 1 out of every 8 were educated at Oxford University, on the scholarships created by Cecil Rhodes, empire builder and diamond mogul who wanted the United States taken.
Tracy H. Hey, welcome. It's cutting out. Audio's cutting out. My audio, the video audio. Help me out here.
Back into Britain's fold. Other Canadian Foreign Office members, all endowed by Canadians, were educated in England. Pearson went to Oxford on a Massey Scholarship, endowed by a Canadian millionaire.
A career path that would be very familiar to Mark Carney, who, immediately after graduation from Harvard on a scholarship, was able to afford postgraduate studies at prestigious Oxford, surrounded by eugenicists and empire builders. How he afforded the minimum £25,000 annual tuition remains unknown.
Yes, very choppy. Huh. Well, welcome to streaming. It's always a bitch. So my output levels looked excellent during that. Not sure why they would be choppy. But, I mean, that's life with this stuff, trying to figure this shit out. You guys want to watch part 2? Here, and get the correct window cap there. Here we go. And so I've been working on this I've got massive work projects going on, massive super spreader projects going on, massive projects for clients going on. But since our premier is being anointed king tomorrow, all of a sudden everyone's realizing, this is the story right now. And I've been trying to gather intel on Mark Carney, and I've got this, my giant bookmarks folder, and every 2 hours, someone's posting something else that's incredible about Mark Carney, and he's connected to this. I mean, look at this. John Baird, Pierre Poilievre's campaign chair for the last few elections, also works at the Eurasia Group with Gerard Butts and Mark Solomon and Carney's wife as senior advisor. Like, look at this. And like, we're supposed to be excited about Poilievre and like his campaign advisor running his election campaign is working with Carney's. Ugh. And this is like, I tried to make like a 7 or 8 minute video, and it's now probably headed for 30-35 minutes because people just keep sending me stuff. Doge cancels funding for Gerald Butts, Evan Solomon, and Carney's wife at the Eurasia Foundation. Why can't we be America right now? Look at this stuff. Damn. And this goes back many, many, many years. Almost 10 years ago, Evan Solomon was fired by the CBC back when they actually had journalistic integrity. They fired Evan Solomon for hooking up Mark Carney and Tony Podesta to buy pedophile art. And people are sending me these links, and I can't even keep up, and I'm trying to make this video short. So what I think I'm going to do is break it up into little parts, and then once we're through all of this bullshit, then I will release a 30-minute video film at the end for $75 admission. What do you think? You gonna buy a ticket? Just kidding. $7.50. So let's go here and make sure I got this right. We're gonna transition. And we'll watch part 2 of my Mark Carney vid here.
Now that Carney has been officially installed as the interim Prime Minister of Canada, the decision to replace Justin Trudeau with the much more vicious technocrat can only be understood by the historic role of the British Empire in using Canada as a weapon against Canadians, and especially Americans, going back for over 2 centuries. As the informative 2010 LPAC doc.
Oh, this is crazy. America and Canada both had high-level plans to attack each other just 100 years ago.
Documentary, The Special Relationship is for Traitors, showcased during the early 20th century. Leading American military figures like Brigadier General Billy Mitchell understood Britain's role in supporting the Confederacy and Britain's manipulation of global wars. General Mitchell fought against the Special Relationship tooth and nail and led the military to create War Plan Red and War Plan Orange to defeat Britain under the context of an eventual war between the English-speaking powers. These plans became official U.S. military doctrine in 1930 and were crafted in response to Anglo-Canadian plans to invade the USA that had been drafted 10 years earlier, known as Defense Scheme 1. Despite the name, it is admitted by even the most ardent anti-American historians that these plans were entirely offensive in nature, as no prior U.S. plan to invade Canada then existed. War Plan Red was only taken off the books when America decided it was more important to put down London's fascist Frankenstein threat than fight Britain head-on in World War II. The Green Agenda's infiltration into U.S. foreign and energy policy considerations was also driven in large measure through the influence of Canada's Maurice Strong. From 1963 to 1970, Strong oversaw a vast reorganization of the Liberal Party, even bragging to his biographer Elaine Dewar in 1994 that he was on the selection committee that brought Fabian Society agent Pierre Trudeau into politics in 1963. From 1965 to 1967, Strong ran Canada's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, founded Canada's International Development Agency, which transformed the philosophy of international aid from assisting poor nations to build full-spectrum economies into predatory borrowing tied to conditionalities. He also mentored a young Klaus Schwab, co-founded the World Economic Forum in 1971, chaired the first UN Forum on Population in 1972, served on the Bilderberg Group Steering Committee, and crafted a worldview which became known as the Green New Deal and Agenda 21, launched at the Rio Summit in Brazil in 1992, which he also chaired. Today, the spiritual heir of Maurice Strong and the Roundtable movement is being set up to take dictatorial control of Canada under the suggested threat of a climate emergency. He is, of course, Mark Carney.
Yes. Creepy Mark Carney, the king. The Kang. We was Kangs. Now, do I have part 3? Let me see. Part 1, I do. So we're going to move into part 3. And this is just like a developing story. It's taken effort. I'm working off of historical documentation by Matthew Arrett and Canadian Patriot Review to go back to find these deep-rooted historical origins for the rise of Carney. But at the same time, there's the modern stuff where I got all this video that's happening now of Carney being an asshole that I need to highlight as well. It's been quite the adventure. I thought this was going to be a very quick video, and it's turning out to take out a whole week of my life. But that's video editing for you. So here's part 3, people. You ready? You ready?
The National Post's Peter Foster described Mark Carney's
Never Violet. Too creepy. Is the Eclipse creepy, or is Mark Carney creepy? Neva Violet, this info is fascinating. Great job. Well, you know, we've got to acknowledge Matthew Ehret and Canadian Patriot Review for their constant effort to put this historical viewpoint on what we tend to just be like, these friggin' lefties, these friggin' righties, yada yada, like everything's happening now. But in fact, this is all happening in a mix of planning and plots that have been going on for hundreds of years. Mark Carney is just the kid that they found 30, 40 years ago that could suit their purposes. And the scholarship to Harvard, and then no one, I've searched this, no one has any idea how this guy, who was quite severely middle class, which is, really good when you're running for prime minister and you can brag, oh, I'm middle class just like you and I'm going to be prime minister. But to go, he then, after his scholarship at at Harvard, went to Oxford for postgraduate. And that's minimum for a foreign student, minimum £25,000 a year in the 90s. So $45,000 a year Canadian. How did he afford that? And as you'll see from these videos, just going through that program, you're butting heads with and rubbing shoulders with eugenicists and Rhodes scholars galore. And all my searches online, no one can explain how this guy afforded to go to Oxford for his postgraduate studies.
Mandate eloquently, writing,
Since the advent of the COVID pandemic, Carney has been front and center in the promotion of a political agenda known as the Great Reset, or the Green New Deal, or Building Back Better. All are predicated on the claim that COVID and its disruption of the global economy provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity not just to regulate climate, but to frame a more fair, more diverse, more inclusive, more safe, and more woke world.
Mark Carney can best be described as one of the most important insiders and mascots for the oligarchy, serving as the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, former investment banker for Goldman Sachs, World Economic Forum trustee, alongside fellow Oxford trainee Chrystia Freeland.
Oh, God.
I speak with Mark often about that. I speak with him often. He's actually my son's godfather.
Former governor of the Bank of Canada.
So, you heard that right. Mark Carney is the godfather of Chrystia Freeland's baby spawn, whatever the fuck. He, she, they.
Canada, and then the Bank of England, and the chair of the Financial Stability Board from 2011 to 2018, where he oversaw the growth of the very derivatives time bomb, which was designed to take down the transatlantic financial system in a future-controlled detonation. In 2024, Carney was even made president of the queen of all think tanks, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, aka Chatham House, whose American branch was set up in 1921 as the Council on Foreign Relations. This international web of roundtable think tanks would coordinate several generations of Oxford Rhodes scholars and would follow the mandate of Cecil Rhodes to create a Church of the British Empire and recapture the colonies of America that declared independence in 1776.
And something that my government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency powers of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
Oh, idiots. The emergency powers. What is he talking about? What is he claiming? They're going to bypass the Constitution? We saw what happened last time with that, right? Well, hey, we're just going to take your bank account. Absolutely unreal. And people are sending me these more information by the second. The scariest is this. This is unacceptable Canadian girl. I went down a Nixum rabbit hole, which led me, or Nexium, which led me to the Mark Carney, Evan Solomon. Evan Solomon is the used to be highly touted CBC political reporter who had his own show on CBC, but was fired for using his position to sell art to Mark Carney and Tony Podesta. Art like this. Like, what the fuck is this? Which led to Tony Podesta, which led to Pizzagate. Now, you know, I'm a calm-headed guy. I'm not, you know, bonkers about Pizzagate, but I also feel that Pizzagate was not fully investigated and dismissed. Here's an ad. Yeah, good point. The fact that there hasn't been an investigation into George Soros is proof that the deep state exists. No shit. So George Soros actually get up and speak today to tell us that Trump is a dangerous narcissist. Meanwhile, this guy has been personally funding quote-unquote color revolutions to destroy entire nations so that he can make more money. And there are people on Earth right now, there are people that I know, there are people that I considered friends and or family that will listen to this guy bitch about Trump and think that he's right. When this guy, the whole Ukraine thing is because of him. Tiananmen Square is because of him. The shit in the Middle East is because of him. The fucking, anytime you hear color revolution, you hear the pink revolution, the orange revolution, that's George Soros. Personally. And he has the fucking balls to call Trump a narcissist. So what I need from people, anyone watching this, if you found any information that more solidly links Carney to this pedo art, to Podesta, to Ghislaine Maxwell, who we have pictures of him attending polo sporting events with Ghislaine Maxwell. We need to go down this route because this is something that we could get Carney on that even maybe leftists would listen to. Although, I mean, leftists are so far gone. They'll advocate for pedophilia as long as, you know, their guy gets in power. Countless Democrat fundraisers held in front of this art. I mean, like, what is this shit? Jesus. Why are they so weird? Why are they so sick? I mean, yeah, here we go. Speaking of Mark Carney, Philip Michael Hildebrand is a Swiss banker who has been a vice chairman of BlackRock since 2012. We've got our current Prime Minister, Ghislaine Maxwell, and his man-wife, Diana Carney. Do we have like a Obama thing where his wife is a man? Have you seen pictures of Carney's wife? Okay, I think we're off my main bookmark stream. Okay, let's watch this. This is cool shit.
Who aren't sure about Polyev, they're not sure about the conservatives, they're done with the Trudeau liberals. And they think, well, this guy's an economist, he must know what's good for the economy.
This guy's actually been cool. As far as a mainstream conservative journalist goes, this Lilly guy, he's actually been all right. He's trying.
He'll get us going again. What would you say to them?
I would say that Mark Carney has been one of the architects of the disastrous economic policies that have ruined the British economy.
Yes. Speak truth.
But also more generally from the sort of Davos-led elite.
Everyone that's in chats on our various sources, you know that Super Spreaders has been banned as fuck on YouTube. We're trying on Rumble. We're good on X, but interactivity on X is lame. Very hard to bring the chat into streams like this. And we're trying. If you're talking and I miss your chat, forgive me. We love you. And I might get to it tomorrow, but we face big technical hurdles just to see your chats. So love you all, and let's keep listening here.
Canadians considering him, but they're
from the sort of Davos-led elite, ruined economies across Europe and across other parts of the world. So he has already demonstrated that he does not have the economic knowledge that's required to actually deliver growth. And we have seen the results of that stagnation in Britain. And my advice to the Canadians would be, do not go down the British path. We are now in serious danger of a financial crisis where the British government won't be able to fund its debt.
No shit. No shit. But I have, friends back in Ottawa that are posting that Carney is the hero. He's so educated. He was such a good governor of the bank. Oh, he's just going to be so good. Mark Carney's company accused of massively underreporting emissions. I got to find the my video clip that I made of how Apple gets to claim that they are carbon neutral.
Elitist or people. I'm connected. I can deliver for the country. And my weakness is, people will charge me as being elitist or a globalist, to use that term, which is well, that's exactly, it happens to be exactly what we need. My weakness as a politician, I'm connected. I can deliver for the country. And my weakness is, people will charge me as being elitist or a globalist, to use that term, which is well, that's exactly, it happens to be exactly what we
just happens
need.
To be exactly what we need are globalists and elitists. At least he says it. Maybe it's a step up from Trump. Or sorry, a step up from Trudeau. Sorry, I had that's like a Freudian slip there, I think. But at least he says it. We need elitists. We need globalists. We need Europeans. So yeah.
Mark Carney and your relationship with him.
Good.
While you were Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and any advice you have to Canadians who think he might make a good Prime Minister.
Well, Mark Carney was Governor of the Bank of England, and under his tenure, too much money was printed, which did damage to the British economy and put our economy off track.
Sound familiar? Too much money was printed? Ring a bell, anyone, over the last 9 years?
He, at the last election, endorsed Rachel Reeves' economic policy. She's now become Chancellor. It's been a disaster for Britain. The country is heading for bankruptcy. So I would strongly recommend not backing Mark Carney or his policies on net zero, which have been disastrous for Britain and would be disastrous for Canada.
Do you trust his judgment overall, outside of ideological considerations?
Well, I believe that he made major mistakes in the management of the Bank of England. He has pushed net zero, which has been a disaster, not just for the UK, but for many countries across the world.
Thanks for your time, Prime Minister. I appreciate it.
Anyone wonder
your thoughts on Mark Carney and your
anyone wonder why they got rid of her like immediately? She was Prime Minister for what, like 3 weeks or something? Anyone surprised that they got her fired immediately, replaced with a complete blancmange pudding middle of the road, nothing interesting about him candidate that was easily toppled by now insane Trudeau style liberal in England, and they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. England's fucked. Okay, so let me switch over here. Let me switch over. We'll look at the unpublished part 4. I'll play this right out of my editor. You guys seeing this? Oh, we got a transition. Hold on. There we go. So the end of part 3. Okay, so I'm out of video footage here now. That's why part 4 is secret and doesn't exist. I have no footage for it, but we can listen to this incredible script, which is 98% Matthew Ehret and Canadian Patriot. Ooh, bitch is loud. There we go. Let's just turn her down a hair. Bam. No, no, not there. Right there. Boom. And we'll turn that down a couple dB. Oh shit! You have no sound? One sec.
All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through changed attitude.
Holy shit! Sorry guys, there's so much to fucking figure out when you're streaming. No excuse, but you know, I love you. You love me. Give me a break. So we'll look at the part 4 here again, and you should have audio now.
And take on the Americans.
I'm seeing audio output. Are you hearing
Bank
it?
of England, former Goldman Sachs man Carney has also endorsed the Financial Stability Board's task force on climate-related financial disclosures, which was created in 2015 and was used as a guideline for the UK
If there is no
July
audio, at least
2019
I've got
white paper, Green Finance
captions
Strategy,
at the bottom.
Transforming Finance for a Greener Future. The white paper proposed to
consolidate the UK's position as a global hub for green finance and positioning the UK at the head of green financial innovation and data and analytics. Endorsed by institutions representing $118 trillion of assets globally.
The Carney-led task force also spawned the Green Finance Initiative in 2016, which is now a primary vehicle designed to divert international capital flows into green tech. Carney's former
Okay,
employer
thanks,
at
Suit
Goldman
Spider.
Sachs
Good to
has
see you,
also
brother.
created a green index for virtuous investing,
And Niva
including
Violet,
2 new
thank you.
sustainability indices to promote heavy investment into green infrastructure, called CDP Environment (EW) and CDP Eurozone (EW). The acronym CDP originates from the Climate Disclosure Project, a London-based think tank that generated Goldman Sachs's program. Goldman Sachs's Marine Abiad promoted the CDP index, saying on July 10th,
"We are convinced that sustainable finance enables financial markets to play a virtuous role in the economy."
No doubt they are. Under the influence of Mark Carney and King Charles, the Bank of England and some of the dirtiest banks in the Rothschild, City of London Web of Finance have promoted green financial instruments, led by green bonds to redirect pension plans and mutual funds towards green projects that no one in their right minds would ever invest in willfully. The Ecological Social Governance Index, ESGI, has now been set up across 51% of Germany's banks, including the derivatives bomb waiting to blow named Deutsche Bank. Leading bankers supporting the ESGI, like Mark Carney of the Bank of England, have said that over 6.5 trillion euros could be mobilized under this new index, which currently accounts for about $160 billion. The creation of these green bonds run hand in hand with the bail-in mechanisms which have now been implemented across the transatlantic nations in order to steal trillions of dollars from pension funds, RRSPs, and mutual funds the next time a bailout is needed to prop up
shortages,
Okay, so I ran out of imagery. We're into part 4. This is what I'm working on now. I need to tie in Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein. I need to tie in Mark Solomon, Tony Podesta and John Podesta, and the Clintons and Pizzagate. You know what really gets me is that there are any Canadians that can vote for this guy. Just a few years ago, even the left and the right would have agreed. Bankers, international bankers, are probably the last people that you'd want to trust. But now I see posts, social media posts from my old Ottawa clan and friends declaring Mark Carney is the modern day Jesus because he's so well qualified for being an international banker. It's just wild. Absolutely wild. What do we do, people? How do we beat this? How do we do anything about this? So I'm going to bring up a share again. We're going to watch the start of this. And then we're going to wind down because it's getting late. And tomorrow morning, I have to get up and edit a horror film. Because such is my life.
The National Post's Peter Foster described Mark Carney's mandate eloquently, writing,
Since the advent of the COVID pandemic, Carney has been front and center in the promotion of a political agenda known as the Great Reset, or the Green New Deal, or Building Back Better. All are predicated on the claim that COVID and its disruption of the global economy provides a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity not just to regulate climate, but to frame a more fair, more diverse, more inclusive, more safe, and more woke world.
Mark Carney can best be described as one of the most important insiders and
Bro. It's very strange, like everyone has a goldfish memory. Yeah, one more time around the bowl, and as long as someone's shaking in that nice fish feed, we just don't care. Neva Violet says, I'm hearing that work the past month. He's so smart. Oh my god. I'm not set up for it right now. I've got screen captures of lots of my old buddies, even really intimately familiar people from my days back in Ottawa who exactly as they were being told that Mark Carney was going to win, they're posting memes about how incredible Mark Carney is. On the left is all the qualifications of Mark Carney, and of course it's, like 40 lines long. On the right are the qualifications of Pierre Poilievre, who they've been derangement syndromed into hating. They list like 3 qualifications. And I mean, this guy, it's like he just basically got his passport in January. He's a European elite. And how they can get behind this, I just don't know. It's just, what do we do? We try, right? We try, but these people, they're kind of stupid. Even the smart ones are kind of stupid. It's tricky, but we'll keep trying.
Mascots for the oligarchy, serving as the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, former investment banker for gold.
He's a mascot for the oligarchy. I love that line. Shout out Matthew Ehret for that line.
Goldman Sachs, World Economic Forum trustee, alongside fellow Oxford trainee Chrystia Freeland.
I speak with Mark often about that. I speak with him often. He's actually my son's godfather.
Former
God, is she a cokehead or what?
Governor of the Bank of Canada, and then the Bank of England, and the chair of the Financial Stability Board from 2011 to 2018, where he oversaw the growth of the very derivatives time bomb, which was designed to take down the transatlantic financial system in a future-controlled detonation. In 2024, Carney was even made president of the queen of all think tanks, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, aka Chatham House, whose American branch was set up in 1921 as the Council on Foreign Relations.
And I mean, remember, I'm trying to make this video quickly. Council on Foreign Relations is Rockefeller, Clinton, like everything we fucking hate in the world is Council on Foreign Relations. Yet here we are.
This international web of roundtable think tanks would coordinate several generations.
I love how we've got the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, and she's actually sitting more manly than he is.
On foreign relations. This international web of roundtable think tanks would coordinate several generations.
Yes, one foot in front of the other, that's us. Yeah, Canadians, we got a bit of a situation we got to figure out. But at the same time, we love making fun of ourselves, and we're so weak and apologetic and nice. But at the same time, we did the Freedom Convoy. No one else did the Freedom Convoy. And every other attempt after the Freedom Convoy to make public uprisings against these lockdown measures and other illegal measures, those fuckers, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, America, they had Canadian flags in their trucks because of us. So we are stronger than we think. We can't get too into this Canadians are nice thing. We're not, and we won't stand for it, and we're going to do something about it.
Of Oxford Rhodes scholars, and would follow the mandate of Cecil Rhodes to create a Church of the British Empire and recapture the colonies of America that declared independence in 1776.
And something that my government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency powers of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need in order to build this economy and take on the Americans.
All right, let's work our way backwards. So we'll go to part 2. Got to get the windows set up here. Appreciate your patience. Wonderful Canadians, American brethren. Part 2. Let's go. If anyone's got new information for me, hit me up on X. We're super_spreaders. Every 2 to 3 hours today, I was getting hit with new information that I have to put in this movie, which was supposed to be like a 5 to 7 minute informational video, turning into a 30-minute documentary because Carney's ridiculous. Tooth Spider, what's up? Problem with meaningful discussions at this level is they need some degree of sophistication to understand what's going on. Lefties who love the current thing. I know, brother. Like, I'd have respect for some of my lefty colleagues back east in Ottawa if they had been talking about this a year in advance, 2 years in advance. But instead, the only people who were talking about Mark Carney 2 years in advance were Matthew Ehret, Alex Jones. The only people that were aware of this guy a couple of years ago were warning us about him. The brainless left are just, if my fucking ex-friend or girlfriend back in Ottawa had been posting religiously about how they hoped that Mark Carney would take over the Liberals because he's just so good. If she had been posting about that 2 years ago, well, I'd be like, okay, respect. You guys have your thing. That's great. But no, nothing. Not a word. Not the slightest acknowledgement that this guy existed until CTV started broadcasting that this guy's the new hope of the Liberal Party. Now she's daily posting about how wonderful Mark Carney is, and oh my gosh. And yeah, I have no respect for it. Whereas, a year and a half ago, Matthew Ehret at Canadian Patriot was predicting to me openly that the next Prime Minister is going to be Mark Carney. Here's why, and here are his historical connections to why he's going to be the Prime Minister, going back 200 years. That's why I think we're on the right side of history, man. Thanks, Sooth. Canadians need to rebrand ourselves instead of being polite. Yeah, I love some of that polite shit. I love it. I don't know if it's just because I'm Canadian, but that's how I like to flow. I like to be invited to parties because I'm a nice guy and I'm going to get along and people like me. And I maybe I'll apologize if I do overtly offend someone, but I'm probably not going to do that. Canadians have an advantage to get into these negotiations. We can use this apologetic nice thing to get into negotiations with goodwill. Sooth says, yep, correct. Most people didn't even know that Carney was the head of the Bank in Canada before the head of the Bank in England. Well, exactly right. So they clearly don't even know what he did. Yes, but I'm seeing multiples of my past, liberal friends back in Ottawa posting these epic social media posts and memes about how great he is. He's so wonderful and everything's so great with him. As if he's like Martin Luther King or something, right? Like all of a sudden out of nowhere. And I could openly challenge and bet $1,000 with any of them to show me a single post about the guy before last fall. Whereas my people that I'm working with predicted this 2 years ago. All right, let's watch some video.
Now that Carney has been officially installed as the interim Prime Minister of Canada, the decision to replace Justin Trudeau with the much more vicious technocrat can only be understood by the historic role of the British Empire in using Canada as a weapon against Canadians, and especially Americans, going back for over 2 centuries. As the informative 2010 LPAC documentary, The Special Relationship is for Traitors, showcased, during the early 20th century, leading American military figures like Brigadier General Billy Mitchell understood Britain's role in supporting the Confederacy and Britain's manipulation of global wars. General Mitchell fought against the Special Relationship tooth and nail and led the military to create War Plan Red and War Plan Orange to defeat Britain under the context of an eventual war between the English-speaking powers. These plans became official U.S. military doctrine in 1930 and were crafted in response to Anglo-Canadian plans to invade the USA that had been drafted 10 years earlier, known as Defense Scheme 1. Despite the name, it is admitted by even the most ardent anti-American historians that these plans were entirely offensive in nature, as no prior U.S. plan to invade Canada then existed. War Plan Red was only taken off the books when America decided it was more important to put down London's fascist Frankenstein threat than fight Britain head-on in World War II. The Green Agenda's infiltration into U.S. foreign and energy policy considerations was also driven in large measure through the influence of Canada's Maurice Strong. From 1963 to 1970, Strong oversaw a vast reorganization of the Liberal Party, even bragging to his biographer Elaine Dewar in 1994 that he was on the selection committee that brought Fabian Society agent Pierre Trudeau into politics in 1963.
Will Eric go back on the Duran and talk about Canada on our grim future? I really hope so. And so Matt and Cynthia Chung, his wonderful wife, Canadian Patriot and Rising Tide Foundation, respectively. They're on a world tour right now. Right now they're in Thailand. So they won't be back for a couple of weeks, but I ironically have been pushing for them to that's awesome, but get back here and talk about Carney right now. Because of what they know, they provide the basis for the history that I can present in these videos. Right now, I'd love for them to be back and yelling from the rooftops about who these people are, who Carney is. This is you're right, dude. This is a great time for them to get back on the Duran. While all eyes are on Duran, all eyes are on Russia and Ukraine. Be a great time for Matt to get on and build up Carney in a global context, in a context with Russia and Ukraine. You're right, bro. But when are you wrong? Sue Spider, you're always right. Danzier, welcome. Good to see you, man. Watching us on YouTube. Good to have you, man. How can they talk about Canada, unity, sovereignty as EU installs a new PM like that, but not see the irony? Well, yeah, right. I mean, the EU is just a perverted version of the British parliamentary system that it's just proven itself through hundreds of years now of history to be incredibly unfair, that's against the people and needs to go. We'll keep going on the vid. Keep commenting, guys.
From 1965 to 1967, Strong ran Canada's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, founded Canada's International Development Agency, which transformed the philosophy of international aid from assisting poor nations to build full-spectrum economies into predatory borrowing tied to conditionalities. He also mentored a young Klaus Schwab, co-founded the World Economic Forum in 1971, chaired the first UN Forum on
I had a really hard time with this. I can't believe that. Let me see here.
65 to 1967.
So, publicly, Klaus Schwab, that's Klaus Schwab, married a woman. I guess, you know, he just laid back and dreamed of England.
1971, chaired the first UN Forum on Population in 1972, served on the Bilderberg Group Steering Committee, and crafted a worldview which became known as the Green New Deal and Agenda 21, launched at the Rio Summit in Brazil in 1992, which he also chaired. Today, the spiritual heir of Maurice Strong and the Roundtable movement is being set up to take dictatorial control of Canada under the suggested threat of a climate emergency.
Oh my God.
He is, of course, Mark Carney.
So this is just one of those amazing videos and pictures that everybody was putting out last week of Carney lies. Carney invented basketball. Carney invented, the vaccines. And this was one of the best videos. What I love about this, and I'm trying to time it out in the video so that when they say, that man is Mark Carney, and he looks at the camera just for a fraction of a second.
Mark Carney.
Yeah, like right there, he like looks up just a bit. Yeah, so creepy. And we fade out, and that's the end of that part. So I'll bring up so we're going in reverse order now. We'll go to part 1, and I think we'll call it a night after that. You've been a great crowd tonight. It's so good to see you. I've been off for about 3 months because I'm just so inundated with video work for much bigger projects than me, but I'm coming back. And we're going to watch some shit. I'm going to make some videos I'm going to show you guys. And these videos, these are the only chance for you guys to see these films as little micro super spreaders videos. They're actually going to be sold and bought out and turned into production by another group. And that's how they're going to be released. So that's what I meant tonight. This is your last chance to see these just in the super spreaders format. Next time you see them, music might not be as cool. Visuals might be a little more kind of, calm. This is the super spreader's vision for these. Let me see if I shared this correctly. I did. Yeah, super!
Now that Carney has been officially installed as the interim Prime Minister of Canada, the decision to replace Justin Trudeau with the much more vicious technocrat can only be understood by the historic role of the British Empire in using Canada as a weapon against Canadians, and especially Americans, going back for over 2 centuries. In the 19th century, Canada was recognized as a principal enemy of the U.S.
And I want to say, just a reminder, I'm not getting maybe all chats tonight, so if I miss a chat from you all, I love you. And I'll catch it within 24 hours when I go back and catch the comments. It's difficult to get all the comments from X, YouTube, Facebook, Kick, everything all at once. So if I miss a comment from you, don't worry. I will catch it, and I love you. We're going to go back now.
As a weapon against Canadians, and especially Americans.
So what I've learned over the years, unequivocally about Canada, is that we are the money laundering arm of the British Empire. That's why we've been kept around for 200 years, 250 years, is to launder drug money, to launder mafia money. I say mafia, not Italian mafia, but you know what I mean, organized crime money for centuries. That's why little country like us has all of our banks, Royal Bank, TD, CIBC, we all have branches in America. We all have branches around the world because we launder money. We just had a $3 billion fine in America for laundering money. All right, back to it.
Back for over 2 centuries. In the 19th century, Canada was recognized as a principal enemy of the USA. Confederate intelligence had enjoyed vast patronage and support by the British Empire through its web of intelligence bases, and especially Americans, going back for over 2 centuries. In the 19th century, Canada was recognized as a principal enemy of the USA. Confederate intelligence...
This guy is one of the conspirators in the assassination of Lincoln. And people have no idea who he is. Right now, I can't remember his name, sorry. But it is an absolutely deep story. And it was all planned out in Montreal to kill Lincoln. It's absolutely nuts.
Had enjoyed vast patronage and support by the British Empire through its web of intelligence bases in Montreal and Toronto. These Confederate intelligence networks not only coordinated terrorist operations against the Union from the north, but additionally paid and directed John Wilkes Booth to murder Lincoln after the war's end. These facts were outlined in detail in Barry Sheehy's brilliant 2017 book, Montreal, City of Secrets. When Cecil Rhodes's Round Table, founded in 1902, became a driving force in shaping imperial grand strategy in order to recapture the lost colonies of the Americas and establish a world federation under the City of London, it was Canada that incubated hundreds of Rhodes scholars between 1907 through 1952, which then infiltrated the USA. This fact was exposed by American journalist Eugene Griffin in the 1951 Chicago Tribune article titled, "Canada Offers Fine Field to Rhodes Wards."
British-educated Canadians are in a unique position to serve Britain through Canada's influence on Washington as a next-door neighbor of the United States. Canada acts as a connecting link between England and the United States, helping to hold the neighboring republic in line with the Dominion's mother country. When General MacArthur displeased Britain and Canada by his efforts to win the Korean War, Canada's Oxford-educated Minister for External Affairs, Lester B. Pearson, complained that American-Canadian relations had become difficult and delicate. MacArthur was fired the next day. Pearson's Foreign Office staff was packed with Rhodes scholars. 1 out of every 8 were educated at Oxford University on the scholarships created by Cecil Rhodes, empire builder and diamond mogul who wanted the United States taken back into Britain's fold. Other Canadian Foreign Office members also were educated in England. Pearson went to Oxford on a Massey Scholarship, endowed by a Canadian millionaire.
A career path that would be very familiar to Mark Carney, who, immediately after graduation from Harvard on a scholarship, was able to afford postgraduate studies at prestigious Oxford, surrounded by eugenicists and empire builders. How he afforded the minimum £25,000 annual tuition remains unknown.
Right, so that's the question we've got to look at. For Carney, how did this guy, Canadian kid, like middle class-ish? How did he go to Oxford for postgraduate school and then immediately just walk into high-level finance with Goldman Sachs and then walk into governorship of the Bank of Canada and then become the first non-British governor of the Bank of England? I think ever. Is it ever? If it's not ever, it's like the first in 100 years. How did they find this hockey playing Canadian kid to become the governor of the Bank of England. It's insane. Sooth Spider says, explain how the Canadian government is basically organized crime. It's like Hong Kong. Yes, brother. It's like Hong Kong before the 80s when people in the city got fed up with it and started the ICAC. Sooth, tell us about the ICAC. I actually don't know what that is. At least I don't know what it is by the acronym. That's awesome. People have this angelic idea of the of Hong Kong and Hong Kong freedom and Hong Kong ding 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 bong bong, when Hong Kong is basically another center for mafia crime, for money laundering, and we're being used to get an uproar, get a moralistic uproar about Hong Kong when they've actually been the source of the problem for ages. I'm going to put some memes on before we sign off. I just got to get back in here and get the right share window up. You know I love you guys. You deserve nothing but the best in memes.
Federal regulators yesterday said that they are, quote, working to establish digital credentials for the public without parliamentary go-ahead. Any new system, and here's the kick.
Guys, I have days of content like this. unfinished memes, unfinished videos. I have days of this stuff.
Any new system should allow regulators to revoke credentials, said the notice on the common set of capabilities for issuing and verifying digital credentials for the Government of Canada. It did not elaborate.
Smash or pass on this conservative woman? Smash or pass? 1 is a smash, 2 is a pass.
Explain if enrollment would be mandatory.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement.
Sellout Singh.
Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class.
Sellout Singh.
Justin Trudeau's proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed.
Sellout Singh.
The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance.
Sellout Singh.
There is an even bigger battle ahead. The threat of Pierre Poilievre and conservative cuts.
Then commit today to voting for a carbon tax election at the earliest confidence vote in the House of Commons. And Sellout Singh.
This is the thing, fam. Ever since I've been on the Six, but I realized I didn't really like the Jews. You know what I mean? So when I see the Israel-Gaza thing, I'm trying to fight the disinformation, but I'm also kind of like the disinformation. You know what I mean? I see the video from Syria from 2012 of a kid buried in rubble. I'm like, yo, that's some crazy video of right now. You know what I mean? And you should believe that too, because the Jews are evil. You know what I'm saying? All the CEOs of all the grocery companies are Jews. Gail Weston, he's a Jew, and all the other people are Jewish. So if you're Jewish, that's bad, because you have so much money, and all of us need that money because we're poor, and all my supporters, they're on welfare.
What did they say has been disrupting this operation?
A variety of different tools, according to the Department of Justice, more sophisticated, more elaborate than previous attempts by Russia to interfere with U.S. elections. Let's start with RT, which is a state-owned Russian media company that, according to the Department of Justice, was trying to spread far and wide Russian disinformation.
Sooth Spider says, as far as I know, talking to local Hong Kong expats who lived through that era, as an example, as youth, it was pretty accurate of the feel of the time. ICAC exists because of a huge loss of confidence in the government. You know, as far as I can see, when you look through the record, you know, you look through the actual physical record of, you know, what's been happening in Hong Kong, you have a really hard time trying to find, like, you know, the mainland in China actually committing verifiable crimes against Hong Kong. It's actually very difficult to find. What's easy to find is complaining from people in Hong Kong. and when one looks at the fact that what does empire protect? They had a money laundering scheme. They had a banking scheme in Hong Kong that tied perfectly into the banking scheme that they have here in Canada. And they, you know, they fought tooth and nail. And then when it became more costly politically or visually to hold on to Hong Kong, they said, okay, you know, you can have Hong Kong back, LOL. But at the same time that they let go of Hong Kong, they started this stupid narrative of, you know, freedom, Hong Kong, and all this shit that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is that they had a money laundering scheme in the banks in Hong Kong, and they were pissed off that they had to let it go. You know, it's kind of like a prove me wrong kind of thing.
Саперная, тигр. 2 штуки пока вижу. 3 ползет, солдаты. Крадутся.
Yes, people, America doesn't know this. In New York and Los Angeles, Russian sailors were paraded in the streets as heroes because they scared off the British, who were trying to reinforce the slave South during the American Civil War. And there are images of this. There are photographs of giant parades in Los Angeles for Russian soldiers and sailors who had showed up to protect America during the American Civil War. It's insane.
Yeah, so I mean, Kamala is very clearly part of the same DNC crowd that includes Biden, includes Obama, includes the Clintons. These kind of Democrat politicians who like frame themselves in terms of rhetoric as progressive, but in actuality, when you look at their policies, at best they're like center right, like at best, you know. And so it's really no surprise that she would have BlackRock so intimately involved in developing her economic policy, because as I mentioned earlier, BlackRock is really a bipartisan economic advisor. So for example, Larry Fink used to manage Trump's personal fortune. And
bro, tooth spider, you're always on point. Exactly, HSBC. You know, we're like, hey, we're just telling you, please invest in the Hong Kong Bank of the British Empire. Like, it's in the name, right?
And he was tapped specifically by Trump in the lead up to COVID to help develop the government's fiscal response to COVID. But really, it wasn't a fiscal response to COVID so much as a fiscal response to the U.S. government's lockdown.
Hey kids, on this wonderful image of Putin riding a missile, I love this. Share this, share it. I'm making a return now to live streaming, and you're going to see this a lot more often. You guys have no idea what I've been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. I've been making connections. We're going to have some crazy live streams coming up. Share, repost, retweet, re-X, do it all.
Several reported cases of West Nile virus here in New York City so far. Authorities will be out spraying the city tonight and tomorrow. With the mosquito population growing, health officials are warning to remain vigilant.
This morning, several towns across the Northeast on alert, some even closing outdoor public areas and issuing voluntary curfews to prevent the spread of potentially dangerous mosquito-borne illnesses. The country's well-known infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, hospitalized after contracting West Nile virus.
Мене лякають мобілізацією. І що мене, жінку, теж туди заберуть. Хай беруть. Там женихи. Я поїду на війну, завагітнію, повернуся в декрет. Зроблю свій вклад у перемогу. Нас більше, їх менше.
Like, fuck. Like, the Western world has no idea what they're up against with Russian women. Like, she's like, even if Ukraine took my territory, my contribution to the war will be to breed more Russians. Absolutely incredible.
Из чего же сделаны наши мужчины? Из татушек и проколотых ушек? Из иллюзий и банановых...
I swear to God, Russia is the last bastion of republicanism. Look at this. This is an ad for the war.
Из татушек и проколотых ушек? Из иллюзий и банановых смузи сделаны наши мужчины. Из яркого грима и стримов? Из сладких пирожных и брендов одежных сделаны наши мужчины. Из чего сделан ты? Присоединяйся к тем, кто сделан из чести, доблести и мужества. Присоединяйся к своим.
Like, when was the last time you saw a Western military ad that bragged about manhood? This is every day in Russia. That's a good one. This guy abuses the amorphism around the Russian and Ukrainian languages to mutter out the words that sound like, Slava Ukrainia, but he's actually saying, like, give me a scoop of ice cream.
Героям слава. Слава Україні! Героям слава. Слава Україні! Так. Героям слава.
They're supposed to say Slava Ukrainia and then Glory to Heroes. And this guy's actually saying, shit on ice cream, and they answer just reflexively.
Слава Україні! Героям слава. Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Героям слава! 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 Вот хочу вам показать все эти наши рубрики, наши.
This is fucked up. So this is Russians who've captured Ukrainians. This is fucked up.
Вот наших новых пленных. У вас было человек? 10. В общей сложности из вас 10 человек. 8. 8
Вот я его.
Вы живых остались, остальные. Ну, вот из этой толпы живыми остались только вы. Грамотно вас взяли в плен, да? Я знаю, мои ребята получили рацию на руки. После этого они позвали вас в гости. Вас, как говорится, приняли. Грамотно ребята сработали.
Да.
Вот, правильно. Понятно. Ну и вот вопрос у меня. Что бы вы хотели порекомендовать своим товарищам, которые еще живы, находятся на той стороне? Что бы вы посоветовали?
Мы бы посоветовали, чтобы
Поломал себе ногу или мучился.
не воевали тут. Получается, нас обманным путем сюда завезли, и мы только мобилизированы.
Мнение приходит только через смерть. Вот, пожалуйста. Идешь ты убивать русню. И оказываешься вот здесь. Вот что бы ты хотел сказать? Вот этой русне, оркам, это мы орки, это мы русня.
Я ошибался.
Ты ошибался, да, видишь? А вот осознание своей ошибки приходит слишком поздно, к сожалению. Видишь?
A group of migrants tried to board a school bus this morning while it was traveling to a school. The superintendent for the Humboldt del Zura Union School District informed parents of that incident earlier today. It happened at one of the stops on the school district's bus route that heads to Oak Grove Middle School and Humboldt Primary. Meanwhile, yesterday afternoon, in a similar area along another route, the superintendent says that a group of migrants tried to stop another bus. Border Patrol, CHP, and the Sheriff's Office have now been informed of these incidents. The superintendent says that for the safety of everyone, if a driver sees a group of migrants at a bus stop, they will drive past it and move on to the next.
Bisogna dirlo con chiarezza. C'è chi opera sistematicamente
This guy's a fake.
con ogni mezzo per respingere i migranti.
What I miss most in life about the Catholics is that, like, I used to be angry at them. I used to be angry at them for being, like, super conservative when I was growing up. And now I'm like, this guy's a traitor.
Per respingere i migranti. E questo, quando è fatto con coscienza e responsabilità, è un peccato grave.
Like, he's saying that Trump is sinning by turning away immigrants? What the fuck? What?
Il Signore è con i nostri migranti nel mare nostro. Il Signore è con loro, non con quelli che li respingono.
So open up the Vatican then, brother. Take in 15,000 immigrants right now to the Vatican. No? No? Why?
In quei mari e in quei deserti mortali i migranti di oggi non dovrebbero esserci, e ce ne sono, purtroppo. Ma non è attraverso leggi più restrittivi, non è con la militarizzazione delle frontiere, non è con i respingimenti che otterremo questo risultato. Lo otterremo invece ampliando le vie di accesso sicure e le vie di accesso regolari per i migranti, facilitando.
These people were going into hospital. They had not taken the COVID-19 shot. And this is really important because every single person that sat on that bus or virtual story, I asked them the question, first of all, did you take the COVID-19 shot? No, they did not. And it was becoming increasingly clear that the unvaccinated, as they're called, were being targeted and they were being killed. And the people who were speaking to me used the word murder. It seems to me, Mike, that you came into hospital, And the first question they asked, did you take the shot? And if they said yes, they did take the shot, they went and got different treatments. The ones who did not take the shot, unvaccinated, were straight into remdesivir, ventilation, fentanyl, a cocktail of drugs, and killed on those ventilators. And we have coders and whistleblowers, people working inside the hospital, telling us that they were just jabbing people for this COVID test, and they would keep going over and over again until they got a positive. The minute they got a positive, tick that box, that's some money. On to the next thing, remdesivir, big tick for that. And they were showing us on the death medical records how much they were getting paid for every single drug and cocktail and equipment that was used on them. And it was $500,000 plus per person. Big money. And as one person told me, my daughter was worth more dead than alive, and they took her.
Because he's the best for the country. Because he's the best for the
Look at this weird guy. He's never lifted a weight in his life.
They call us weird.
Are you really gonna hit me? Are you really gonna hit me? You wanna go to jail for assault? You look like Thomas Crooks. You look like Thomas Crooks. You're crazy. You better get out of here before you get your ass kicked. What a psycho. You're about to go viral, motherfucker. We got that on camera. Little soy boy.
You better thank a union member for sick leave.
Why are you talking like that?
You better thank a union member for paid leave.
You know, back before the war broke out, I was a saucier in San Antonio. I bet I could call up some of them greens. Yeah, noodle some crawfish out the patty, yo.
Black people will never accept Rabbi Shmuley after Michael Jackson put him on a list of people who he felt were ruining his life. So you can stop your pleas with Black America, they won't work. Now, going back to the context of what you've asked us to speak about today, I think one of the things that the world is recognizing, and what we've always recognized, is that there are radical fringe sects that break out within every single religion, amongst every race. There's white supremacy, there's black supremacy, there's radical Islam, there are all of these Christ cults around the world. And I think right now it's important for people to understand that radical Judaism is also a thing, and you're watching an example of it right now on your screen. The person sitting across from me, or sitting next to me, I guess, posted on his Facebook page in 2016 a tribute to someone who he said was his mentor. That was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. He said he was his mentor and his friend. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, there were some Jews who believed that he was and is the Messiah. So rejecting Christ, but believing that that rabbi was his Messiah. Now, you may remember in the news recently, there was this radicalized faction of the Lubavitch Orthodox community in Brooklyn that were digging tunnels in Brooklyn and hurling benches at police officers. Well, and by the way, this is per the Times of Israel, that faction of individuals are followers of Rabbi Schneerson. So again, you have Rabbi Shmuley who believes that that's his mentor. They believed that he was the Messiah. What is it? It becomes important to understand, what did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. And you don't have to take my word for it, because if I said it, they would say that's anti-Semitism. You should instead take the word of the two Jewish professors who translated his work. Those authors' names were Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky, and their book was entitled Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel. From that book, we learned that Shmuley's mentor, Schneerson, describes the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. And he says, quote, "Thus we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. The body of a Jewish person is of totally different quality from the body of all nations of the world." And he talks about the substance of the Jewish body versus the substance of non-Jews, saying that the inner quality, quote, is so different and so great that the body should be considered completely different species. So that is a belief, and you can go through his speeches and you will see that he continually talks about how non-Jews should be treated, and that, again, we are a different species. This is what Rabbi Shmuley believes in. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. I'm glad that you brought up my rhetoric about Black Lives Matter, the organization, which was basically allowing black criminals to take to the street to burn down, to loot, and to riot in the name of racism, because it shows that I I'm on equal footing here, that across the board, I do not support supremacism, whether it's coming from my community or whether or not it is coming from yours. And I think the entire world is now paying attention and wondering what is going on in Israel. What is this government? Is this a radical fringe government? And many people are concluding that the answer to that question is yes.
Man, you know, I got my things with that girl. Sometimes she's great. Sometimes she's wacky. She's kind of like the Alex Jones of girl conservative YouTube. But she's good. Like, she doesn't bring up shit unless she knows what she's talking about. So, you know, the Schmearson on Schmooly action there. We need answers on that. You know, I'm aligned with, you know, Matt Ehret and Canadian Patriot. Definitely, I don't think the miasma we find ourselves in is due to some vast Jewish conspiracy. I don't think that. I think that's way too simple. But you know, the Jewish Zionist program is part of something controlling what we hear and see, and that girl's got a bit of stuff going on. Where are we going next? I don't even remember editing this video. Let's see where we're going next. Anybody out there? Hit me up in the chat. Hit me up in the comments.
So I would like to describe what is grooming and what is the manipulations technique using to groom children. So here we talk about emotional manipulations, which in making the child feel special, love, and dependent on the abuser. Secrecy and isolations, encouraging the child to keep relationships secret. And they do this a lot with gender ideology when they say that the children's, let's say if they want to change the pronouns, they told the children, don't tell your parents. It's actually a part of the policy that they say it's a part the teacher is not allowed to tell the parents about the new pronouns of the children, which is a part of the secrecy and installations way of grooming, and gift favors, of course, treat and intimidations, flattery and attentions, you know, making them believe that they are special, that we all want them, they want them to be who they truly are, and all this language. Normalizations behaviors. Gradually introducing inappropriate behaviors to make it seem normal and acceptable. And the thing with grooming is that they don't only groom the children, they groom the people, they groom the populations, they groom the parents they groom us to believe that actually showing sexually explicit material to children is completely acceptable.
Oh yeah. So another 2-minute share. Metabiota. Sure is a good thing that Biden preempted everyone, gave everyone a pardon, because this is what we're looking at.
Extremely concerned about Trump looking around. He didn't want Trump to follow where all the funding was going because he would uncover the biological research, amongst other things. In fact, his actual boss at Burisma Holdings, the Ukrainian oligarch Ihor Kolomoisky, was also the boss of Volodymyr Zelensky before he became Ukraine's president. What a coincidence, right?
So you can hit us on X, Rumble, YouTube, search Metabiota, Super Spreaders, Metabiota 2. Everyone needs to know this. And rewind.
Zelensky achieved national fame, portraying a president on the hit television sitcom called Servant of the People, which was broadcast on a TV network owned by Ihor Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky provided security, lawyers, and vehicles for Zelensky's presidential campaign. The Pandora Papers revealed that Volodymyr Zelensky was the beneficiary of a web of offshore firms created in 2012. That same year, Zelensky's production company entered into a deal with Kolomoisky's media group and received $41 million from Kolomoisky's private bank. A 2012 study of Burisma Holdings by ANTAC, a nonprofit funded by George Soros and the State Department, found that the owner of Burisma Holdings was Ihor Kolomoisky, meaning Hunter Biden and Volodymyr Zelensky worked for the same Ukrainian oligarch. Russian media, quoted in State Department emails, referred to Burisma as part of Kolomoisky's financial empire. Kolomoisky had a controlling interest in Burisma Holdings. Kolomoisky also funded the Azov, Adar, and Dnipro battalions accused of shelling children in war crimes in eastern Ukraine. Human Rights Watch reported that Kolomoisky's battalions indiscriminately used unguided rockets and cluster munitions on populated areas in Donetsk. He was extremely concerned about Trump looking around. He didn't want Trump to follow where all the funding was going because he would uncover the biological research, amongst other things. In fact, his actual boss at Burisma Holdings, the Ukrainian oligarch Ihor Kolomoisky, was also the boss of Volodymyr Zelensky before he became Ukraine's president. What a coincidence, right?
Biden crime family. No kidding, right? Like, this should be obvious. It should be like you know, and the mass media itself just gives you the links to prosecute this family. It's just insane.
Zelensky achieved national fame, portraying.
Yet, I've done a video based on dance that illustrates corruption through dance. Let's go.
Zelensky achieved national fame, portraying a president on a hit television sitcom called Servant of the People, which was broadcast on a TV network owned by Ihor Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky provided security, lawyers, and vehicles for Zelensky's presidential campaign. The Pandora Papers revealed that Volodymyr Zelensky was the beneficiary of a web of offshore firms created in 2012. That same year, Zelensky's production company entered into a deal with Kolomoisky's media group and received $41 million from Kolomoisky's private bank. A 2012 study of Burisma Holdings by ANTAC, a nonprofit funded by George Soros and the State Department, found that the owner of Burisma Holdings was Ihor Kolomoisky, meaning Hunter Biden and Volodymyr Zelensky worked for the same Ukrainian oligarch. Russian media, quoted in State Department emails, referred to Burisma as part of Kolomoisky's financial empire. Kolomoisky had a controlling interest in Burisma Holdings. Kolomoisky also funded the Azov, Adar, and Dnipro battalions accused of shelling children in war crimes in eastern Ukraine. Human Rights Watch reported that Kolomoisky's battalions indiscriminately used unguided rockets and cluster munitions on populated areas in Donetsk.
Oh, is that the end of that clip? Oh, I was like, well, I was watching it. I was loving that. I was like, all right, this is cool. I love these videos. Super cool shit. So that is probably it. Let me see where we are. Yeah, we already watched that. All right, people. I'm going to call it for tonight because I got to get up in the morning and have a meeting with my film producer on the horror film that we're working on. And that's my Friday. And love you all. Super Spreaders is back. We're going to be live streaming. I have lots of news to announce. You guys are amazing. Sioux Spider District of Columbia should be renamed District of Criminals. Yeah, or that Columbia tie-in should be taken a lot more literally, right? All right, thank you all for watching. We're going to call it for tonight, and we'll be back very shortly. Big guests, big shows, the biggest that anyone's seen. It's the greatest thing. People are talking about it. Gina,